Right. Good morning, everyone. This is our new monthly webinar series for advisor topics. I'll be kicking us off today doing the usual kind of monthly status updates that I've always done with advisor. Then we have a couple of deeper dive topics that are going to happen after that. Yeah, we are using the webinar version of Zoom here today. So rather than chat, there is a Q&A function that you can use to submit any questions you have. Here's the agenda for today. We should go all the way to 11:30 if we're taking our time, but we might finish earlier. So I will get us started and just go over some of my updates. Also, we do have some of the slides that you'll be seeing today already posted on this website here. I also will get my slides posted here in the near future. And this is on our data events website. And then within a few days, probably, we will get a video of this session posted here as well. If you click back into May, you can see we've got the video and the slides there. All right, so the July status update. First, just getting started with 2020-2021, the year-end collection. Things went relatively smooth. Definitely, I believe we had less problems, less late minute big issues than we did last year, which was even better than the year before. So things went pretty well. As always, there are some districts who had late requests, late tickets that came in that we are working on following up with. And getting that data finalized and moved into the year-end locked reports. Really, the top priority out of that is the attendance ADA ADM data. Our school finance team does start using that data in the near future. So definitely this is the time to check that. Attendance is not part of the follow-up collection that we do in the fall. District superintendents generally should be signing off through advisor validation once they're done. We will follow up on missing sign-offs soon here at once we're done with the late requests. I'd say probably the biggest issue that came really late was an Infinite Campus issue where grades were being removed for seniors. Since that is grades data, though, we decided that Infinite Campus districts will correct that during the follow-up window, which is essentially the follow-up window starts July 1st and it runs through October 15th. So I believe there will be an update for Infinite Campus coming out to fix that if it hasn't come out already. And Infinite Campus districts will be able to follow up on that. Just a reminder of kind of how this works. So on July 1st, we took a snapshot of your data and keep that separated. But all districts still have the ability to sync 2021 data into that live data. Where then in advisor validation, depending on what reports you look at, are you looking at the locked reports or not, will determine which data you see. The only way that data then gets into the locked version is if there's some communication going on between your district and NDE, like I mentioned through late requests or one of those tickets we have. And as those get finished, that is when we have that's when we update the lock data. Patty had a question about a 713 error. That's actually a good one. I forgot to list that one, Patty. Thanks. Another widespread issue we had was with power school districts. After doing your rollover, generally all your students get a data applied where an exit date of 6:30 is applied, but then no exit code. And so we flag it was a 713 error. So yeah, we're aware of that problem. And what we have done, and we did this last year too, is I just do a mass cleanup of those power school districts. So right before I took the lock data, I did a cleanup to remove that unnecessary 6:30 end date, because that was for students that are continuing. But if you resync your 2021 data, you'll see it again. And I may do another cleanup of it in the future. I'm waiting to hear from Power School when the permanent fix for that will get applied. But if you have those 713 errors now for an exit code with an exit date with no exit code attached in your Power School district, I would say don't worry about them. Just a reminder also about some of the steps of how the data locking works. So right now, if you're in advisor validation, the student lookups, the enrollment lookup, student lookup by ID, graduation cohort, all of the course data that we load overnight, which is like programs of study, the non-endorsed staff report in NSSRS validation, instructional units that our accreditation team is working with. All of those are still building using the live data, not the lock data. We don't switch those over until the 2021 data is fully finalized after the follow-up collection. So that will probably be in November when everything really switches over to the lock data, and you will see that version of everything. So yeah, that's about all I had for 2021. Again, if you have any questions, pop them in the Q&A tab in Zoom. So just a couple of status updates about 21-22. So right now, all the SIS vendors are coding their work for 21-22. A few of them are close or are ready for doing certification testing. So that's testing that I'll do with the vendors. We go through a test plan on a test server. So we'll be starting to do that in July. Probably testing will, depending on the vendor, could be July, August, or September probably. Like we usually do, NDE will activate the new year of advisor for data publishing August 1st. But as always, districts must get that new year update from your SIS vendor before you can publish data to the new year. So I can't give you a date on that. You really will have to hear that from your SIS vendor about when you will be able to sync your 21-22 data. Just a few more notes about the schedule of what things are happening for 21-22. Advisor validation, well, we will put out an update that rolls it over to make the 21-22 year available. At the same time, we will turn on errors and reports for the new year. Probably That will happen mid-August, I would guess. There's definitely a good chance we will have some new validation errors to run for the new year, but those are really, to be determined at the moment. We haven't gotten that far into looking into them, especially since we have new data like the learning modality. So we'll probably have a new report for that, possibly new errors for it as well. So we'll be looking at those after we get the existing errors set up. So in August and September, that's when we may be turning on new errors. When we do, we will announce those through the NDE bulletin, like we usually do. I would hope everyone at this meeting is signed up for the NDE bulletin, but if not, visit this link or just go to NDE's homepage and look for the bulletin link in the menu, and you can sign yourself up to get bulletin updates. So like I mentioned, yeah, the learning modality data is new this year, so we will definitely have like a new report to support that, so you can see what data we've received for it. Other than that, we're getting pretty stable with advice validation. There's not a whole lot of new reports we're waiting to add, but definitely this is the time of the year where if anyone has any suggestions, please send it to us, pop it into the Q&A in Zoom now, or just email it to our help desk later, and we'll follow up with that. So advisorhelp@nebraskacloud.org. And quickly, just documentation updates. I don't think anything's new since the last meeting we had, but just a reminder, head to the advisor resources link here. The 21-22 data elements guide that has all of the new fields and changed fields for 21-22. We've been talking about these for several months here at the monthly meetings. So I won't go into depth on them again, but just a reminder that the data elements guide is posted. Also, the 21-22 updates for person ID, the updated instructions and updated templates, those are available on the advisor resources website. And just like we said, person ID did roll out on July 1st, just with the small changes for 21-22, mainly that we got rid of the legacy file template format, and we have added 2 new fields that are optional: the preferred first name, preferred last name. So those are available in person ID now. Some vendors have already switched to the new format. Others, like PowerSchool, I believe, before the end of this month, we'll have an update out that will make the updated person ID template available. So we have plans for updating other guidance documents out there as well, but the basic stuff we need for 21-22 is all available now. That's it for my section. Definitely, if you have any other advisory topics you want to discuss right now or questions, please go ahead and submit it to the Q&A, and we'll talk about it. Just a reminder, there's my email address if you want to contact me, and the help desk, advisorhelp@nebraskacloud.org, is definitely the best place. Okay, so let's see here. Leah's got a question about preferred name. So for example, you use Robert versus Bob because that is the birth certificate name. So we still, the student unique ID system has always asked for the birth certificate name as the main name. So that doesn't change. There's still the student first name field that existed last year is still the exact same as this year. So you would still submit Robert to the first name field. Now we've just added an extra field, the preferred first name. That's where you would submit Bob. There is a little logic in the matching system where we look at both, but I don't expect it will majorly change the matching system. So yeah, so well, if someone was not submitting the birth certificate name before under the first name field, then if you make that change, yeah, it might cause it might confuse it a little bit for the first time you do that. But yeah, hopefully it should not cause major headaches with the matching. Heather was asking about what new exit code do we use for birth to 3-year-olds. So in 21-22, there is a new, we do have several new enrollment exit codes, but I don't know how those really affect your birth to 3-year-olds. We took, when it comes to enrollment exits, we took the former 201 transfer out code and split it into 5 options to be specific about where they are transferring out to. So I'm not sure in what situations you would have 201 codes for your birth to 3-year-olds. But I don't know that anything would change there. So it says that we enroll birth to 3 students who receive special services. Yeah, nothing would change about that. Kim was asking, do we still upload students to Person ID to change the grades in building? Yes. We definitely want everyone to submit all their students to Person ID each year. It helps with the matching system, helps with other districts if you're sharing students as well. So definitely, like always, that won't change. We ask all districts to submit all their students to Person ID each year. And you can either just download your full list out of your SIS, or there are download options in Person ID, so you could download your whole list, edit it, and then re-upload it. When a parent no longer wants services from special services, what enrollment exit code do we use? Okay. So in that case, then it's a birth to 3 student. So presumably they're not transferring out anywhere, they're just ending services. I don't know that I have an answer for that. I'm not sure what code they would have had previously. Unless someone from the help desk knows the answer, I think we'll have to take that one back, probably talk with our special ed team a little bit. Well, Heather, yeah, Heather said she just always used the 201 code. I don't know if that was definitely the right code to use in the first place. Like, I haven't come across that situation myself. So yeah, I definitely think we will take that back to our SPED team to talk about. We will make sure that, I mean, we could bring the answer back here. Most likely also that's a good example of something that we'll add to the data elements guide. I mean, we've got all the basic info in there now. Well, either the data elements guide or the who reports what, I think. One of those would probably be the document where we will add that answer. The student comes back after homeschooling, is the code similar to they transferred in from another district? The transfer in codes we did not change. So I'm assuming it would be the same code that you used before, which I don't know what code that would be off the top of my head. Denise says that's a 103 transfer in code. So assume you're using a 103 before, Patty, you can keep using it. Next, we'll switch over to Kevin Lyons to talk about school finance.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Lyons, Director of School Finance for Nebraska Department of Ed, being a former administrator as well, a superintendent for 15 years, and now I'm working with Department of Ed. As we go through this, if you have questions, please ask. I'm going to just run down a few repeats of what Max went over, and that's the first slide you see there on the advisor piece. For school finance, the important pieces that are used in both certification of state aid and the recalculation of state aid, which we do twice a year. Average daily membership is a big piece of that. We pull that from the June poll. Fall membership as of October 1 is used for certification. Average daily membership is used for recalculation. So it's important that you monitor those numbers. I do run some follow-ups prior to the end of the audit. And if I see any significant changes or numbers that are different, then I do notify superintendents or school districts that they need to be taking another look at their numbers. And a lot of the times that difference is tied into your school information systems, whatever ones you use. So please pay attention to that. Another piece is the option in students and the option out students, making sure that you have those coded correctly. It does have a big effect on school districts that have more students optioned in than optioned out with the TIOSA calculation. So follow up with that. Contracted students, we're finding more and more schools doing contracted students, especially if it's across the state border. Some of our Northeast and Northwest schools contracted students from other states. You cannot option in a student from another state. You can only contract a student. So make sure you understand the difference there. Qualified early childhood, again, this is important. And for the qualification, it has to be NDE approved early childhood program. And those codes are the 002s and 004s as you mark the early childhood individuals. And then the last one that we track is limited English proficiency. All those are used and we pull those from Advisor. And when you're in Advisor, always keep in mind to look at the state aid components, and you'll see each one of these numbers in the state aid component, with the exception of average daily membership and fall membership. Those are going to be found. Well, the fall membership is in the state aid components, but average daily membership is going to be found in the attendance part of Advisor. Next slide, please. Consolidated data collections, and I'm going to go over some of these that I'm responsible for, especially with the state aid piece, as far as ensuring your days in session and instructional program hours are correct. That includes that includes kindergarten through 12th grade, halftime kindergarten, and then your early childhood programs. And I did work with a couple districts these past couple weeks to ensure that we got some corrections made there. The pupil transportation report, again, we pull that at this time as well. That was due on June 30th as well with the end of the audit. Everyone did get their transportation report in, so kudos to all the school districts on that. Summer school student unit is another piece that we monitor, and again, these are in the collections. Now, for the school districts that do not have summer school, please still go in the collection piece, and it is set up where you can click the very top box that says we do not offer summer school. And then that way we have a complete report from all school districts, as I can run a report, and there's 244 school districts, and it's nice when all school districts report that. Your assessed valuations and levies, and this will be coming up at the end of August, where you will input your assessed valuations and levies. Be sure you're accurate on that. Again, going through the CDC collections, and all these have instructions. Each one of these collections have instructions that outline what you need to do. And if you're still unsure, my name and phone number or email is on there as well, so that you can contact me, and I'm happy to help any other school districts out. Estimated expenditures for poverty and limited English proficiency, LEP. Again, a collection that's in there. Not all school districts do it for both or either. However, please go in there and put in your estimates, even if it's $0 if you do not have the poverty or LEP expenditures. Next slide, please. PK instructional programs and kindergarten program hours. Again, this ties to days in session and early childhood, ensuring that you do both those collections as we consolidate both those numbers as we move forward with starting the certification for 22-23 already, which I'll be doing after October. Elementary site allowance. This is for districts that have more than 2 elementary sites. We have some that have 3. Please go in there and follow the instructions to ensure that you record the elementary site allowance. I will follow up with school districts that do report this in case they have numbers switched around as far as the primary and the secondary elementary sites. Again, if you only have 1 elementary site, please go in and just mark that you only have 1 elementary site, and then approve it and have your superintendent or have the superintendent submit it. 2-year new school adjustment application. Again, this 2-year new school is on the collection. This is for school districts that are building a new school, or they have a new addition that they're adding, which includes classroom space for students. And you're able to go in there and list what you're looking at. I do require documentation from an architect, sketches of the new building, and then the projected number of students, and I use that in the 2-year new school. If it did not apply to you, once again, please go in and just mark that it does not apply to you, and then you can submit it. Student growth adjustment. For most of the school districts over the last couple of years, the student growth adjustments sort of been unique, especially with the pandemic and COVID and virtual learning and a jump in homeschool. However, as you go into student growth adjustment, you may see an increase in number of students coming back to school this year, and it may be applicable to you to submit this. However, please read the instructions, and if you're unsure, you're more than welcome to give me a call and I'll walk you through that process. But on all these CDC collections, it's important that you at least go into each collection, and if it applies to you, then properly fill it out. If it does not apply to you, mark that and then just submit, and that would be helpful for me. So I'm not calling schools at the last minute saying, hey, you didn't submit this one, would you please do so? Next slide. AFR submissions, we're getting better at this for a lot of you out there that's been around for the last couple of years. AFR submissions have changed significantly with code changes, but we will have a test AFR system opening soon, and we are requesting that you at least attempt to put your AFR into the test system so that we can check codes and all that. We have Janice through the end of August and Michelle Cartwright, Janice Everett. They can assist you on that, and we have hired Janet's replacement as she is retiring, and her name is Stephanie DeGroat, and we will get her information updated as we progress, as she just started this past week. Utilize the AFR system reports to confirm financial information aligns with the audit. One thing that we've had difficulties with over the past 2 years with all the code changes is some of those changes weren't updated with the auditors. Even though we provide updates to them, they didn't use the updates. Therefore, we had school districts that had AFRs and audits that were not matching. I think this year will be a lot better year as far as ensuring that those audits and the AFR match with the same codes as you start to work with your auditors, over the course of the next 2 to 3 months to get that confirmation. And the audit is due November 1st, or November 5th, which is very important to be tied in with the AFR submission. Financial information submitted must align with the audit, and notification to districts to adjust or correct information is made, and we will ask that you update your financial information. Again, as far as the AFR system, you can submit your AFR numerous times, and then when it's finally aligned and everything works, then you push submit and you should be good to go there. And again, Janice, Michelle, and Stephanie will be able to assist you, and I have their contact information coming up here in a little bit. Next slide. One of the issues we've had over the last couple of years is the value of buildings and contents. This is included in the per pupil cost calculations, which is 3% of the total value of building and contents. And the per pupil cost is starting to come to life as far as for school districts, because we go down to the building level now, not the district level. And so school districts that have multiple elementaries or multiple middle schools, multiple high schools, it's important because now this is a public document that's being tied in, based on federal regulations in the state of Nebraska. We've been doing this for a couple of years. So the importance of that value of buildings and contents is important. And what we recommend on that, you use your AFR insurance property coverage limits page to identify those values. And as I mentioned, that is value of the building and contents by district and by each school. And the district can include a bus barn, could include a athletic facility. That can all fall under the district, and then each school itself just identifying their contents. And then I just mentioned districts for the values of building, the bus barn, administrative building, and the athletic fields. Next slide, please. Again, I brought up per pupil cost, district level, sections by district and school level. One of the things that we just sent out to the superintendents was some changes to a recent bill passed on LB 528 that ties in per pupil cost. And this also ties in superintendents now need to publish that on our per pupil cost site. And we sent that out on the July 1 bulletin for business managers and superintendents to review the changes of LB 528. So it's important that that you'll be posting your information online as well. And when we separate that, we do it by value of the building and contents, again, at 3%. We utilize your average daily membership, the total adjusted current expenses, and then the per pupil cost per ADM. And we're finding in some districts, you may have one school that's more higher needs that has a per pupil cost of $13,000 per student. And then you may have another elementary school that doesn't have as much high needs that may only be $9,000. Well, you need to be able to answer those questions if public information comes in wanting to know why this school is spending more per student content per pupil cost than the other schools. So pay attention to that report. And once again, we can assist you on trying to help you answer questions should they come up, especially in your community or patrons. Next slide, please. Here's the school finance team. These are updated numbers. Again, Janice will be retiring at the end of August, and we will get you Stephanie's information. She will take Janice's phone number, so that phone number will not change. Once Janice retires, Stephanie will have it, and we will ensure that we get Stephanie's email out to you. So it's another person that will be working with Michelle, and will be able to assist you. Next slide. Just want to finish on a final note. Next Tuesday, the 20th, our team will be out in North Platte with a new superintendent orientation. On the 22nd, we'll be in Milford at the ESU 3 there, doing a superintendent orientation there as well. And then the following week, we will be out at admin days Bryce and I will do a short presentation on Wednesday, and then the rest of Wednesday and Thursday, we will be available on the second floor to assist school districts and superintendents, business managers with their budget, getting ready for the upcoming year. With that, unless there are questions, Kirk, I'll pass that on to Janice. Jannison, if you can please go back one slide, they'd like our phone numbers. Hope that helps you, Deb. If there's no other questions about Advisor or CDC as far as consolidated data from the school finance, thank you for attending and listening, and please contact us with any questions that might come up even after the session here. And thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started here. So today we are going to run through District Administrator Portal responsibilities. And I will be kind of manning the slides here. We're going to talk through what those responsibilities are going to be as related specifically to the portal. We'll talk about portal access for new and returning superintendents, what the district administrator sort of their responsibilities within the portal, what that looks like, and within the tab, basically the presentation is going to go through the portal and what each of these tabs that the district administrator has within their portal account look like. So the big one is the district administrator tab, and there's two different sections of that, the collection activation code section and the administrator reports. There's also the student and staff NSSRS tab, which manages all of the student and staff data for the district. That contains collections such as advisor validation, and then staff reporting and NSSRS validation. And then lastly, we'll talk through the data collections tab, which has a whole bunch of collections, including the consolidated data collections collection. So lots of collections to talk about. So to start with basic portal sort of, we'll show you here. Hopefully this pops up for me. I may have to slide it over. What the portal looks like. So I'm going to sign out here. And this would be your basic homepage of the portal. The help tab is available to anyone without you actually being logged into the system. So you can go to the help tab, and there's some great topics here that talk you through what activation codes are for the portal. And then also give some guidance for setting up portal accounts. So if you're a brand new superintendent or district administrator, even if you're a brand new data steward, the first step is setting up your portal account. And then we also have a document that walks through what the district administrator responsibilities are. So when we talk on this slide here about the help tab, there's two kind of key topics. One is setting up your portal accounts, and then it's important to note that each of these portal accounts belong to a specific person, not the district system. So even if you have a changeover in staff, you have a new data steward starting, they'll have their own portal account, and then the leaving or the exiting data steward will close out their account. And then the other topic that's extremely helpful is number 3, the district administrator responsibilities document. And that goes through kind of as a new or an outgoing administrator, kind of what your next steps are. So to obtain district administrator portal access, we've been working with a lot of the new superintendents as of July 1 when their contract started. The previous administrator's access will need to be removed. So in some cases, we've done that for them because let's say they've retired and they're no longer available. But in most cases, we prefer that the previous administrator remove their own access. So that's step 1. The NDE Help Desk will then send the new administrator a code, and that's going to be your district administrator activation code. And that code is what gives you access to manage your district's data within the portal. The code will then be added by the new administrator into their portal account in the My Profile tab. And then NDE Help Desk receives the notice, and we approve that new administrator. So once that new administrator is approved, the district admin tab will show up in the portal account. And only the superintendent or the district administrator for that district is going to have this tab. They are the only one at the district that has this tab to manage the district's access. So there's three main tabs: the district admin one, the student and staff NSSRS tab, and the data collections tab. So as I mentioned earlier on, we're kind of going to go through this presentation based on the actual tabs themselves. So Denise, I think you're up next, right? You're going to cover the district admin tab for us.
Yes, I am. So as Naomi mentioned, only the district administrator has this tab. And this is the tab where all of those the activation codes for each collection is listed. We have two sections. Actually, I'm sorry, we have two sections on this district admin tab. So we have the collection activation codes and then also the administrator reports. So the collection activation codes section, I think we can go to the next slide, Naomi. Thank you, sorry. So yes, sorry. And we do ask that district administrators provide the activation codes to their staff. So to do that, when you access that district admin tab, it's going to default to that collection activation code section. So you would choose in that drop-down box the collection name, and then you would receive a table displayed below. I will say you don't have to do the choose collection drop-down unless you are a superintendent or a district administrator for more than one district or school. But once you find a collection in that drop-down box, you can go ahead and to the next slide, thank you. You will see that table drop down below that has the activation codes and the user types. So for instance, this is a shot of the consolidated data collection, which usually has, which does have a lot of different user types. So you can assign a user type to a specific individual. The user type is important when you're assigning different collections to your staff. But there's the user type, and then there's also for the district administrator in the consolidated data collection, you are going to have a approver code. And if you notice, there is a restriction there that only one user can have it. And it is the approver. It only works on the district administrator's portal account. You'll also notice that on the left-hand side, you can see who has access to this collection and what type of access they have. And this is one way that you can manage your staff's access to the portal collections. If you see someone listed there that is no longer with your district, then you can use the little remove link to remove them from that collection. Go ahead to, yeah, thank you, sorry. And then the second section is the administrator reports. So you can download or look at a report either by district or by collection. So if you select the district user report, it's going to display your district's access by the user. So it's going to show you the user and what collections they have. And the collection user report will do the opposite. It'll display by the collection and who has access to that collection. And again, this is another way where you can manage who has access to what collections and whether or not someone should have access. So that's basically the district admin tab. And I think Jenny is up next.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to talk about the student and staff tab. There's two sections, the student collections, the advisor person ID, and the advisor validation, and the staff collections where we have staff reporting, NSSRS validation, and NDE staff ID. So for the student collections, in advisor validations, there's 3 collection periods, our submission windows: the fall, year end, and follow-up. The follow-up is collecting from the previous year, things that happen over the summer, your summer transfers, summer drops, sped exits, that and your summer courses. So your follow-up is for the previous year. There are 4 activation codes for advisor validation. The district, then you have the 3 programs that are listed there. As district administrator, you would need to have all 4 of these activation codes added to the advisor validation. You add them one at a time into your advisor validation. For your staff, not all of your staff would have all 4 of these codes. They would have the district, and then they would have 1 or more of the program records depending on what their position is at your district. And that is your responsibility to provide the appropriate activation codes to your staff for advisor validation. So again, under student collections, we have the advisor person ID. This is where you create and view the ID numbers. Max had mentioned in his session first thing this morning that every student every year gets updated with their ID numbers. And this is important because this information from the person ID, the first name, last name, and date of birth populates your advisor validation student record. So if your record is not showing up correctly in advisor reports, check the person ID to make sure that the data is correctly in theirs, because that's where it's coming from. And every student, every year. So our student data, we have an advisor resources page, and this is where all of the data is for reporting. So under this resources page, down in the middle section there, the calendar, all of these down in the middle are like accordions. They will open up. So there's your calendar, data conference information, advisor data guidance. This again, Max talked about in the first session. Those are your data elements reporting for this year. So this is kind of like your main guide on what data is required by NDE. So lots and lots of information there. And as you scroll down this middle section, you'll see course codes and your clearing endorsements, program-specific information. There's your person ID. All of the districts and school codes are available to you. Then in the left-hand column, you have additional information. So you're seeing the page we're on is advisor, but if you go down and there's there's your CDC, non-public, and staff. So it depends on what you choose on the left-hand side, opens the accordions in the middle section. So this is a good one to have bookmarked and use if you have questions. Okay, for the staff collections, we have the staff reporting. That is a new collection every year. So you will have an activation code new for every year for the staff reporting. This does open in September, usually first of August, sometime in August that will open. And it does have various deadlines. Your September 15th is the statutory due date for reporting your staff. We do look at the data again, October 30th, and end of year, June 30th. This is one collection that does not usually get opened after the due date. So make sure at your year end that you have all of your staff reported appropriately. And that is staff reporting again is listed on that advisor resources page. That would be one of those selections on the left-hand column, because you have your staff reporting manual and all of your staff items. Yeah. got that opened again. So your staff reporting and staff ID instructions are there. Then in the NSSRS validation, we do still do a few things for NSSRS validation. That is where your staff errors and warnings and your staff verification reports are relating to the staff reporting that you did the previous step. So this would be your second step of validation of your staff reporting. So you might get an error here saying you're missing a piece of information. And the verification reports, it'll give you the out of endorsement report, which is one you'll want to check throughout the year to make sure your staff do have the correct endorsement for the course that you're reporting them for. There are lots of other staff reports out there. There's an entire report of all of your staff, kind of the old fall personnel report, if anyone remembers that. But make sure you look over those staff reporting verification reports in the NSSRS validation. And then the NDE staff ID, that is where you would create or view staff ID numbers. Usually a number is automatically created when a staff person gets their certificate. But there's some times when you'll need to create a new staff ID, and it is good to add the social security number if it's known there. That makes a good matching between this system and the educator certification system. And there to link here, this is a public site. If anyone, your district or even the public, can look up teachers' licenses to verify their licenses. This is great to use for you as a district. So you can search and see if anyone has the status of their certification. And then in the educator certification, their site, they have the business partner portal. That is where superintendents or staff that they select can go out and see when their staff certificates are getting ready to expire. And you would get a link from the certification administrator on setting up that business partner portal in the Teach system. So I'm going to hand it back over to Naomi to talk about data collections and to wrap us up. Thank you.
Okay, can you guys hear me okay? I've been playing around with my mute buttons. Great. So the last tab is the data collections tab. And as I mentioned earlier, it supports the collection of all sorts of types of data. So you could have some of the financial data that Kevin was talking about earlier, the LC2, the most recent, the census report that was collected, your annual financial report. And then there's even collections related to accreditation. Coming this year, you'll see some counselor and library media specialists not endorsed, a Rule 10 assurances, and even for the non-public systems, there's a non-public curriculum. There's a lot of collections within this tab that they are completing. And then, just all sorts of other things, the DHHS superintendent letter, exempt schools report. But the big one that we're going to talk about more today is the consolidated data collections, because that, and I'll go to the next slide here, the consolidated data collection is a collection within the data collections tab, but it's also a collection of collections. So Kevin talked a little bit about all the different ones that the finance team needs you to complete. But each of these, for access to the CDC, there's multiple user types. And Denise kind of talked about this when she was discussing the district admin tab. So you may have someone who needs access to everything within the CDC. Well, then you would give them the activation code for all. But you may also have someone that only handles staff data. So they would only need the user type for the CDC collection that was called staff. And so there's all these different types of access, and you could use all, or you could give someone staff and MIPS, or any combination really. For the district administrator, what's really helpful though is there's an approver user type, and it must be the district administrator who adds this activation code to their account. But when you have that approver type, you have basically every type of collection within the CDC. The only one you'd need to add is the MIPS. So some collection examples of what's within the CDC. We've got substitute teachers, we've got non-public membership, Title I non-public consultation. Kevin mentioned the pupil transportation report, all sorts of collections within there. And again, we have a resources page for the CDC. I'm going to pull up this same page here. Ginny mentioned it. You can click on any of these menu items here. Literally just updated the calendar for 21-22 for CDC collections. That's going to contain all your due dates and open dates because not all these collections are open year round. So that's worth looking into. And then also we added the finance page as a resource here in the PowerPoint because so frequently you'll be needing to access their information. So anytime you guys have any questions, email the help desk. That is what we exist for, to help you guys. So we've got our email in here. When you send that an email, it automatically creates a ticket, and then we can follow up with you from there. The other thing that we always recommend new superintendents, new data stewards subscribe to is the NDE bulletin. And this is not an automatic thing. You have to go in, hit the little envelope icon and sign up and subscribe. We typically recommend that, people do only what they need to, because if you're working for public, you really only need to see notifications of that type. And we prefer that you get it right away or daily versus waiting for weekly. Otherwise, you're only getting updates once every week, and that can be kind of tough. So that's a really important one to subscribe for. So that is the kind of basis of our district admin presentation. I'll kind of talk a little bit as we kind of close up, but I want some questions and answers. Just so you know, we'll answer those as well when we're done here. So registration tomorrow is going to open for our August webinar. So make sure that you go to the events webpage here and register. Unfortunately, you can't just register once for all of the monthly webinars. You have to register every month. So tomorrow you'll see the August information up here and you'll be able to register. We've already got our topics kind of thought through. Max is going to do his monthly update right away. We're going to have a special presentation for new data stewards, and we're also going to talk and get into more information related to the advisor follow-up collection. So I guess we'll open it up for any questions. I thought I saw one pop up, but it looks like someone got it answered. Yes, the PowerPoint will be on the NDE website, and it'll be on that events page. Let me go back to that slide. So it'll be on this page if you want to take a screenshot, but it looks like Max might be typing that in for us too. What other questions do you all have for us? Well, we've got a quiet group. I know we've been working with a lot of the new superintendents already, so most of them are set up, and hopefully this was helpful for those of you who aren't superintendents to see how their access works and how they can manage their portal accounts. So we'll stay on for a few more minutes if you have any further questions, but otherwise enjoy the extra few minutes to your day, and we hope to see you next month in August for some more information. Thanks, everybody.